Good morning, friends. Welcome to Seed Starting Saturday. It is your friend Lisa Mason Ziegler, and super glad to be here with you guys this morning because I have a lot to kind of share and talk about. And it is Memorial Day weekend, and I know that a lot of people are out and about. Here in the Mid-Atlantic, we are expecting a nor'easter tomorrow. That is like a big old mean storm. It's not as bad as a hurricane, but it's lots of wind and rain. So for that reason, that is why you see a carpet of seedlings behind me. I have our next succession planting indoors. I just brought them in. I thought I might as well bring them in to show them and share them with you guys, and we'll talk about them in a few minutes. Anyway, so we're taking advantage. Once again, friends, we're all about making lemonade out of lemons. How suiting that I have a new yellow shirt to talk about lemonade, right? But yesterday, Stevie and I, he tilled the next block of garden. And I planted buckwheat, a cover crop, and that'll get rained on. I also tilled our sweet corn and hilled it. And so we feel like we're really ready for the storm and whatever it brings. And a big part of that for me as a flower farmer is bringing in my vulnerable trays that are sitting on a carport that's covered and actually has a fence around part of it to block the wind, but we still don't leave stuff out there when a nor'easter is coming. So I've brought them all in this morning and we'll take a look at them. And I also have our salvia seedling rooted cuttings to share that we did last week to have an update on them. And we're going to do our sunflowers. And I also, we did a big photo shoot here yesterday morning. Y'all, that's all my life is these days, getting ready for this book, right? Because let me tell you what happens. You want to take images of the flowers and things that need to be, you have a list, right? I have 225 images are in our book. And I have a list of what those images should be, or a very good idea, right? And then when that particular situation presents itself, you feel the need to take the picture right away. So if a nor'easter or deer or disease or pest takes them out, that I'm living on the edge right now. Godicia, which is something I need to get a picture of, is deer bait and rabbit bait. And it is gorgeous. It's like 26, 27 inches tall, covered in buds, but not one is open yet. So we can't cut them to take pictures. And I do all kinds of things to protect, but you just have to kind of like say a little prayer over them and just waiting for them to open. So what happens is that you take pictures at the first moment you can, but then nothing happens to upset what you're taking a picture of. And a week or two later, guess what? It looks even better. So you want to take another picture because it's even better now. And that's the stage we're in right now. That's all I can say. The pictures that Suzanne and I took yesterday are things that we have been waiting 6 months on to take pictures of. But I'm already thinking, gosh, if this storm doesn't hit us hard, 2 weeks from now, this flower group is going to be awesome. Anyway, that's the life of doing any project, particularly when you're doing it for somebody else, like having a publisher as we do, which means they're basically your boss. You feel the pressure, and that is these buckets you're seeing back here and all over here, and there's some back there. These are all remnants of the show we did yesterday, our QVC like shopping show, which you can go in and watch the replay. We'll talk about that. But the driving force was our big photo shoot. So I'm just glad to have all this stuff here. So that's kind of where we are now. So this is the end of May almost. It is Memorial Day weekend, and I want to just send out a big thank you. And we respect and honor all those that have made it possible for us to have Memorial Day. And I get awfully emotional about these kinds of things. I live in an enormous military community. I mean, I have Langley, Fort Eustis, Camp Perry, Norfolk Naval. We are just totally engrossed in Army, Marines, Air Force, Navy, all of them. So they're a big part of our community. And so our heartfelt thanks to all those that serve. And, you know, we are happy when those boys, we call them the brothers. We have 2 big jets that do touchdowns at our local airport, right, which is only like a mile from here. So they blast us out of the garden when they're doing touchdowns, and it's always 2 of them. And we call them the brothers, my sister and I do, and we're just grateful. So, be grateful. And all this partying and eating and carrying on is because of them, right? All right, friends. So let's do a little bit of updating here. So first off, if you are enjoying my broadcast each week, I really would appreciate giving us a like and subscribing. And if you're watching it, sharing it with your friends. That's what really helps us the most to get the word about all that we're doing and our mission of helping people at all levels, from home gardeners to beginning budding flower farmers to those that want to scale their flower farms, on how to do that and offering the resources that they need to do. So please be sure to like and share all of our broadcasts. And I want to say that we have a really, I had a wild, crazy idea at our staff meeting on Thursday. It was totally unplanned. I said, you know what, y'all, let's give 100% free shipping inside of our shopping app. And so inside of our shopping app, I'm not talking about our big website. This is our shopping app that I'll show you actually. So you get our app. This is it right here. And it brings it up. And this is our app. You can watch all the replays. You can watch yesterday. But you can shop all of our products in here, and everything that's in here that's in stock and hasn't sold out yet is 100% free shipping until Tuesday at 8 a.m. Eastern time, which is May 30th. And friends, guess what that includes? That includes our Swift blockers, which do have additional shipping when you buy them over on our website, because guess what? It costs that much to ship them, but we're paying the shipping as, our gift this weekend. So if you don't have our phone app, you can just go to your phone app store, download it, search Gardener's Workshop, download it, get it, watch replays. Can it take full advantage? That means all the seeds and all the products that are in there are 100% free shipping. I'm sorry, y'all, I'm just looking at our list. Yesterday's show was about another unsung garden hero, and that was marigolds. I treat marigolds just like sunflowers, y'all. I don't mean that I plant them every week, but I think that most, particularly flower growers, undervalue them because they think they stink. Well, first off, do you not know that it's the foliage that has the fragrance, not the flowers? The flowers are incredibly big and gorgeous. And best of all, they last 2 to 3 weeks in the vase. Commercial customers love that when you train them up right, y'all. When you train them that the fragrance is in the foliage. And I had one commercial customer that they never even got a marigold with foliage. They never, because they said, oh, they stink. I said, oh, mine don't stink. And I introduced them stripped, and they used them for the big flowers, not to mention that some of the new varieties, White Swan, which you can see that in the show yesterday, we should have images of them because they're on the verge of blooming right now. They should be blooming for our big open house, June 24th, if you don't have that on your radar. And they have a very, very faint fragrance. So you can actually leave the foliage on. So you can watch yesterday's show to learn more about marigolds, because they were a big part of our flower farming program, particularly with our supermarket bouquets, and our commercial customers really, really loved them. So let's just take a look at a few things before I sow our sunflowers this week. And I first off want to say that I love when you guys post the sunflower emoji, because those are people, y'all, in case you don't know this, folks that post the sunflower emoji are usually identifying themselves as a member of the TGW family, the Gardener's Workshop family. And they've joined the family by taking one of our online courses. We feel like when we embrace people and bring them into the circle and want to support them and help them on their journey by taking our courses, they become a member of the family. And those folks put their sunflower emoji, and most often when you see multiple emojis, that means they've taken a bunch of our courses. So we love it when y'all do that. I wanted to just say that, show a little bit, and sorry, y'all, you get to see some of our behind the scenes hardware here for some of our shows. I have seedlings on every flat surface in this building because of the nor'easter that's coming. And I wanted to say that I practice what I preach, friends. It's all about succession planting, right? And I did a awesome podcast with Joe Lample of Growing a Greener World, which that's where you will, the Joe Gardener Show is the name of the podcast. He's a big vegetable grower. His show's been on PBS for 13 years. Emmy award-winning gardening show. Love Joe. He and I are like kindred spirits now. We kind of commiserate together. But we did a podcast that'll be coming out later this week on his platform, but it'll be coming out on ours in another week. I sent him some great succession planting images that you'll be able to see on there. And I just wanted to share, so y'all can see a little bit better, that I practice what I preach, y'all. We constantly have seedlings coming along. I mean, that's the whole succession story. So I hope you'll take a listen to our podcast and understand why I'm doing this. And this storm is a perfect example. My garden is long, and then I have a separate garden out back. Oftentimes, one end of the garden will get mostly hit with the wind or not, or the one that's protected in the back. And sometimes the one protected in the back gets the worst damage. So having this succession thing going on my farm really brings us to have something to cut afterwards. And I'm telling y'all, it took me years to figure all this out. And it's how I sleep at night. I was talking to, when you get a business and bigger business, your banker is just like that professional group of professionals that I recommend people get, that I talk about at Flower Farming School. For me, that's my banker. And, when you bank at a bank, they want to stay in touch with your business. They want to know what's going on. And I was talking to him on Thursday. He calls me every quarter just to touch base. Actually, I think, I find that so many of the professionals that I deal with are so enamored with what we do. It's like they can't believe that we can take something we loved and grow it into something bigger, right? But it helps me so much because I get so much business advice from him. But he just really shared how much he learns about gardening for him in his home just from following along and seeing what we're doing. And he talked about how you don't plant everything at one time. And we also talked about that perhaps my method of being able to sleep at night, meaning that I don't worry about anything really concerned. I'm one of those people. It's like, tell me what the problem is and let's figure out how to fix it, or to say, oh, well, move on. Right. Is having that peace of mind and a plan of what I'm doing. And I think that's the real secret sauce to life, right? Not just business, but is to face your problems and have a plan to actually execute and take care of them. And that's the only way I can survive balancing all these balls that I have in the air. And succession planting is that for my farming business. And so I want us to take a look, and you can meet our rooted cuttings that we did last week. So I want to show some demonstrations of some of the things that I spoke about. So first off, here's a goner. This one doesn't, let me move this leaf out of the way. This one doesn't seem to be, although it might. What I want to show is, see all this green right here? That's new growth because look at this dead leaf. This is the leaf that was on the cutting that I actually did. And that happened on several of them. Look at this one. That is a dead leaf, but look at the new growth. And then go figure, look at this beautiful leaf that stayed good. So these are our cuttings. So we started these last week. This is Salvia leucanthia, which you don't start from seed. You started from cuttings at you root. And we save a mother plant. You can go back to last week's. I haven't looked for roots. Let's see if we've got some. So the root is just starting to pop out the side. This is the Swift Blocker Mini 27. So the blocker makes in one push, I made all 27 of these 1.5-inch blocks, totally replacing my use of one of the uses I have for the 2-inch blocker. When I plant big seeds into the 2-inch blocker, and I need a bunch of them, this is what I'm going to be using. And this is one of the things that's got free shipping this weekend, y'all. So this is the Swift Blocker Mini 27, and really, really pleased with how well, I mean, all of this is new growth. Look how beautiful that is. So last week we did Salvia leucanthia and Salvia mexicana. And these guys are major pollinator plants for later in the summer. They actually start blooming for us, depending on how quick I get our cuttings done, usually like in early August, but we let them harden off a little bit, the blooms, before we start cutting them. And I talk about all that last week. So I want to just point out that big old purple bucket back there is the Campanula. And y'all, and I understand I cannot wait. We're launching the book in the next couple of weeks, meaning the book's not available till next February, but we're going to create a way for y'all to get on the wait list so you get the awesome resource we're going to be given to people that get the book from us. And one of the things that I talk about is those confusing families like Campanula, that there's hardy annual varieties and then there's biennial varieties. And in some plant families, there's even perennial varieties. So it's no wonder we get so screwed up. So what I want to say is, first off, that bucket is already at 9 days old and it is still gorgeous. That's why it's an incredible cut flower. But that's because of that variety. And that variety is Champion. And that Champion variety is a true hardy annual, meaning it's a real cool flower. You fall plant it, it winters over. If you're in zone 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, you need to be fall planting it. And it winters over beautifully and needs no protection. And it holds up like a champ, and totally love it. So we could talk about flowers all day, but you can learn about all these flowers you see here, including those heirloom French carnations right there. You can learn about all of them by watching the show yesterday. I went through and showed each one of them individually. So let's start our sunflowers here. So if you're new here, and I am just, sorry, y'all, I'm pushing stuff off the back of the table as I'm moving. I need to get my tray. So I am going to sow our sunflowers, and I did want to show this, y'all. I want to show you every tray up here, but we just can't do that, right? These are my just being born zinnias. And just took them off the heat, and that is Benary's Giant Pink. We do grow most often at this point in my career. I used to I start out with mixes, pick my colors, and then I grow by solid colors. Totally love. I mean, look at the Cosmos. They're all just, and look at this one. Y'all, I gotta stop, right? I gotta stop. Look at this Gomphrena. Totally beautiful. And I actually have my next planting of tomatoes back there too. So we do them all. So if you're new here, sorry, y'all, I go down these dadgum rabbit holes. And I wanted to also mention, we're definitely working on, we understand that the screen may be a little grainy. Our IT people have been on it and we're now going to the next level. So please bear with us. It's going to improve one way or another. All right, so we start sunflowers every week, and I have to say, I had a whole bucket, which was about 100 stems of sunflowers yesterday for our show that you can see in the app that we started here together, but I actually sent them along with Bupleurum and the Amobium, which is, they make beautiful little bouquets. I sent them over to my mother-in-law's retirement community because the activities person there actually makes little bouquets and delivers them. She can't deliver them to everybody. She has a list of who gets them each week, so everybody's getting them anyway. So I don't have them here to show you. But look at the show yesterday. Your sunflowers were gorgeous. The peach is phenomenal. So we're planting more peach today. So here's the story. We start sunflowers every single week, single stem. I grow the Pro Cut series because they are quick to bloom. From seed to bloom is 55 to 60 days. And they have a vast selection of colors to actually choose from. And so when I was in high production and we planted 1,200 sunflowers every week for 26 weeks, I only grew orange. Because the craziness of being at that level of farming, we did not need any confusion. And we sold out every week. They supported our supermarket bouquet program. We were making 250 mixed bouquets a week for the supermarkets, plus all the straight bunches of individual flowers that we could give them. Plus, we were going to farmers markets. Plus, we had a bouquet subscription service. And seal the deal, I serviced 23 florists from Virginia Beach to Williamsburg. So we needed a lot of flowers, is what I'm saying to you. And our sunflower program allowed us to puff up our everything. So let's just say, for instance, this week, we don't have a lot of flowers for our mixed bouquets. It's like, oh my gosh, we don't have any marigolds or coxcomb. We don't have any focal flowers. Coxcomb wouldn't be focal, but we just don't have any focal flowers this week. So that means that week we'd go heavy on that perfect sunflower size, y'all. We're looking at about 3 to 4 inches. People don't even recognize them as sunflowers. So we would have 3 to 5 sunflowers to put into each bouquet if I had to, at least 3, right? And then that week, maybe our florist wouldn't get as many as we normally do. The weeks we don't need them, I mean, we would sell 10 to 20 bunches of sunflowers a week to some of our high volume standing order florists. Y'all, quality and quantity and consistency. That's what it's all about. So, and this is how we do it. Now that I'm strictly an education farmer, meaning our garden is still grown. It's not nearly as big. We don't nearly grow the volume. But we're still doing all those steps so that we can do the things that I'm doing right now and have imaging for books and courses and all this kind of stuff, right? So now we only plant one tray of 128s, this is a 128 plug tray. This is the size we like to use. Now, if you are a smaller grower and you don't even need 128 every week. Let's just say you're doing a bouquet subscription and you've got 10 bouquets a week that, you're just getting your feet wet. You're doing 10 bouquets a week. So you think you want to have maybe like 30 sunflowers a week. Well, you better believe I would use the Swift Blocker Mini 27 and plant 27 sunflowers a week, and you don't need plug trays. You'll start 27 a week, and that is your succession. And so, but if you're bigger, then you do it in plug trays. And if you need thousands like we did, then you use lots of plug trays. So we started 10 plug trays a week for all those years and rarely, if ever, had leftover sunflowers. And so let's see what we're going to do today. So let's talk about this. So let's just say you are that small grower and you are like, okay, but I don't want to have all orange. So that's kind of where we are now. When we started 3-4 years ago, streamlining and downsizing our business drastically, and we were just growing. We gave away most of our florists. We stopped doing supermarkets. We stopped doing farmers markets. We were just doing our on-farm, members-only market and our bouquet subscription. And so that really narrowed our field, right? And so my sister, who is the head bouquet maker, said, we need more variety. You know what I mean? We're not selling to a gazillion. So that's what started me bringing more colors back on board. So that's what we're doing now. So you can definitely do that. So now I'm only planting this 128 plug tray, but I'm planting 3 different colors and I'm marking them. So we use to identify them. The big thing on the identifier is not so much the colors, which it's nice to know that, but it's the date. Because once you get several weeks of sunflowers out, growing and hardening off out in the sun, it's easy to say, oh my goodness, they both look about the same height. Which ones are the ones that are, really mature enough to plant? So we put the date, which today is May 27th. And I use masking tape. And y'all, this is our garden marker. I've used this marker since I began farming. I mean, I don't know how I happened. I think I bought it at a home and garden show, right? Totally works. Holds up outdoors in, can't even think, moisture and UV rays, right? So this is in the app, free shipping. All right, so I'm just going to write on here the different varieties. What do I have this week? And I'll tell you all about Sunfield Green. And I'm actually starting the same ones I started last week because it was so crazy here. I forgot to ask the girls to bring me the one that I had been starting every week for the most variety, the Pro Cut Bouquet Mix. Okay, so I have written on here, and I'm just going to stick this tape, and I just break up my plug trays into thirds. And this lets me know who is who. And the real reason that's really nice to know is that Sunfield Green, which we grow that, Sunfield Green, we don't grow for a bloom. We grow it for the bud. The bud has all these layers they're called sepals. They're the layers of green that make the bud. There's multiples. They actually look like a succulent, and they add such texture. And I also, instead of only leaving one leaf at the top of when I harvest, they often have multiple little leaves next to them that are really beautiful and it'll hydrate. It's like having one of those to go in every bouquet. So we would plant back in the day, a whole tray of Sunfield each week to be along with Limelight Millet, which is green, having all these things that come in every single week. So you have extra new variety of stuff to add to your bouquets, right? So the Sunfield Green, you need to know who he is. So once you start growing them, you'll recognize them early on, but you don't want to let them open up. They're okay. They're kind of funky looking, actually. They look like a tropical flower to me. Some people love them. My sister loves them, but I grow them for the bud. So you might want to know what that is. So we're starting off with peach. Peach is a great color. It actually truly has a peach glow about it. We have talked about that over and over again, that, when people see them starting to open out in the garden, they're like, oh my gosh, what color is that? And I'll say, that's peach. They'll go, oh my gosh, that is a peach glow. So it's almost anybody that does photography or knows anything about it. The golden hour, that's the hour right before the sun goes down or the hour after the sun comes up. In the more early morning, like 6 o'clock in the morning now these days, and even 5:45, how it gives this beautiful glow to the garden. Well, that's what peach looks like, even without the golden hour. So we plant peach. Peach is a really universal color that tends to go with everything, because that's what I'm always thinking about, right? Okay, so this is the end of May, the end of June, the end of July. So these guys are going to be blooming in high summer. So normally I would be starting our bouquet mix. The bouquet mix we mix in-house. It's the Pro Cuts, 4 of the oranges of different hues and little accent colors. And you can actually make a bouquet out of the bouquet mix. But I did it so I could have one pack and just make a whole tray, right? And have 4 different colors. So The bouquet mix, one of those that's in there is what I'm starting today. It's the Brilliance. And I almost kicked myself this morning when I realized I gave away those sunflowers that I wanted to show y'all today, because half of the bunch was the bouquet mix. And you could really see the difference between Brilliance, Orange XL, the Pro Cut Orange, and the Pro Cut Horizon. And anyway, so it'll come. We've got others coming along out there. Although I'll tell you, and y'all know that I like totally share the ups and downs and everything in between. We lost, I'm going to guess, 2 weeks of planted sunflowers to a blunder here on the farm that we don't need to talk about it, but we just had to take care of the problem. That is one of those, pull your big girl britches up and just make a decision and move on. Anyway, they've now got a tarp on top of them. So I am just hoping, I can almost promise you it's the sunflowers that should have been blooming when the open farm is going on. But oh well, we had plenty more planted before that and since then, and we'll just go with it, right? All right, so I planted Sunfill Green. Sunfill is not a Pro Cut at all, and you can find it on our website. And Jesse's really good about putting the links about everything I mentioned just so you can find it easier. And remember, you can find everything with the exception of the plug trays. There's some things we just can't sell on the app. And so you can find most everything that I'm talking about over in the app. Take full advantage of the 100% free shipping that's available inside the app until Tuesday, 8 a.m. Eastern time, May 30th. All right, last one, y'all. So here's the story on how you do the sunflowers. So we start whatever sunflowers you choose every single week, plant them in plug trays. The soil mix that I'm actually using is a good quality potting soil. It's not even seed starting mix. It's just potting soil with no added chemicals, mixed 50-50 with, y'all, I'm sitting here looking at myself talking and not even showing you what I'm doing. Let me move this down so y'all can see what I'm doing. So I'm just literally dropping a seed on the surface of every cell. And then, you know what I'm going to do with these Brilliances? I'm going to do what we started doing last week, because sunflowers bloom larger naturally because the days are longer. I'm going to do these that I just did. I'm going to put 2 seeds in every cell. They will get planted at the same spacing that I'm getting ready to tell you, and they're not split apart, but this method will keep the blooms small so that the blooms, even though they're facing longer days, they'll still stay small because they've got tighter spacing. So let me just do this before I screw it up, y'all. As you can see, when I get on a talking rant, I often lose track of whatever else I'm doing. Almost done. So, dropping an extra seed on the Brilliance, and because these will be blooming in July, when the longest days of the year are happening, right? All right, y'all, I'm just getting rid of these few. All right, so now I'm going to just take my fingers and I'm just going to put them over top of the seeds and just push them about halfway down into the cell. Sunflowers bloom best in darkness, meaning covered with soil, right? And so I'm pushing them in, and you can still see them. But once I take this tray into my grow room and water them with my watering can that has a sprinkler nozzle on it, then that will, there's a chunk of something in there. Must be a soil block. That will wash the excess soil off the walls of the cell to cover the sunflowers the rest of the way. Then these will be popped onto a seedling heat mat, because soil that gets warm to hot from the get-go and stays warm and hot 24/7 gets them to sprout quicker, and they build a stronger root system, which means let me finish doing this, which means that when you know it's time to plant these sunflowers, which is for us at 2.5 weeks, and we know that because when we pull on the stem, the entire cell of soil easily comes out of the pack. Because of its great root system, and heat is what really drives that to happen fast and quickly. So these will be popped onto a seedling. I water them, seedling heat mat. Once 50% of them show their heads, they just start their little neck coming up. Then I pop them out onto our porch where they're in full blasting sun 24/7, and they get watered. And I plant them out when they're 2.5 to 3 weeks. Bobo, every morning when she comes to work, she works 2 days a week. Well, actually 3 days a week now, Mondays and Thursdays, basically, and pulls on them and says, okay, I'm planting sunflowers today. That's how she knows. You should not have to be digging them out. And I mean, that's the whole pain in the neck of plugs, right? You shouldn't have to do that. And then we plant them into beds that have been prepared with the organic dry fertilizer, which, by the way, that is on the app, free shipping on the 4-pound bag, which you use 7.5 cups for 100 square feet. So you can get that on free shipping too on the app. Rhonda's probably, her nose is twitching. Rhonda's our warehouse manager, and she tracks our shipping. I mean, y'all, I mean, people don't need to know this or even understand. Most often we subsidize shipping. I mean, I know everybody, I hate paying shipping too, but it costs more than what people pay. And when we did the free shipping, if you could have seen, I mean, I thought Rhonda was going to put her head on her desk. Anyway, she probably just felt a little twitch when I just pointed out that the fertilizer is free shipping over on the app, because that just doesn't ever happen. Anyway, get it, y'all. So we prepare the beds. We put down the organic dry fertilizer according to those instructions that come on the bag. I do not put down Bio 360, the biodegradable film that I use pretty much everywhere else on our farm, because the growing time of these transplants, a third of their life is already done before you even plant them. There's just no need to do that. So if we either prepare immediately before we're planting them or disturb the soil, that means you're knocking out any developing weeds. Plant the sunflowers. They outcompete most weeds. It's just not a problem. We put 5 rows in a 30-inch wide bed, and in the row, the plants are 6 inches apart. And that includes these doubles that I've done. You don't break them apart. You don't space them any differently. Because of those longer days in the middle of the summer, the very exact same planting that you've been doing this entire time, all of a sudden your sunflower heads will be getting bigger, especially those on the side. And you don't want that to happen. So what you could do is to put doubles on the outside edge of your beds, but keep doing the singles in the middle. You know, you can do all kinds of things, y'all, but it's all about what do you remember to do. And in my case, when you have people helping you, to communicate all these changes and difference is never usually worth it. So we either, you plant one cell to the same spacing all the time, no matter, and you just take whatever's in the cell, right? So that makes it super, super simple. And then we hand water using a wand with a sprinkler, nozzle on it. And Bobo waters each plant, make sure each plant gets well watered when she plants it. And then we're pretty much done. We do not lay down irrigation, or do we do flower support netting? Should they be netted? For sure. But at the rate that we plant them every single week with high volume, when we were doing that, we couldn't. There was just no way. And so I took a gamble. I just had to calculate what's the risk. Okay, we may lose some sunflowers, but the amount of labor needed not only to net, but then to unnet is when it was not, just didn't prove to be worth it. Y'all, you have to really, I'm not a purist about anything that I do. I mean, obviously I soil block, I use plug trays. Some people that are all soil blockers are like so anti-tray. It's like, I'm not anti anything. Well, there's probably some things I'm anti, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, I use and do what is best and easiest for me in my farm, in my business, in my situation. And that's why it's really hard when people ask me really specific questions that are like for their business, it's like, I have no idea what your situation is, so you have to really feel confident enough to make these kinds of decisions. So, and sunflowers was one of those. It's like I remember, I'll tell you this quickly, and then I'm going to look at the questions Jesse has for us. Years ago, this was when we were in high production, and I actually, in addition to what my space is, which our whole property is 2 3/4 acres, and on that, when we were in high production, we had 1.5 acre working cutting garden. Well, in addition to that, I had about 1 acre that Oliver, our neighbor, allowed us to grow on, which was kind of nice. That really allowed me to start cover cropping because I had extra space, right? Well, we planted tons. That's when I really got on the bandwagon of doing 1,200 sunflowers a week. And I will never forget a Thursday, because I use this as an example. It's like, oh yeah, you definitely want netting, because when a Thursday afternoon at 4:55, a 10-minute, 60-mile-an-hour winds, torrential downpour blows through for 10 minutes, and then the sun is shining and lays down $7,000 worth of sunflowers. Yeah, you look at yourself and say, dadgummit, I should have netted. That happens. That happened once in a 25-year run of flower farming, right? So it can happen. Oh my goodness. I mean, Corinne, this is back when Corinne, who's now mother of 4, Corinne was working here. Grace, my cousin, as well as Suzanne and Bobo and Rhonda and everybody else was here on the farm. We did CPR and saved as many as we could, meaning we cut them before sunrise the next morning, before they started bending. Craziness. That's why you net. If they'd have been netted properly at the right height, about half of them would have been saved. So you have to judge. If I was a small grower only planting 128 a week and I was really dependent on them, you better believe I'd net them each week. I'd figure out a way. You know what I mean? I'd have netting installed for the whole entire bed, and I would have silage tarp down underneath the netting for the future plantings, and then just fold it back as I went. Something, you figure it out. So friends, you got to just learn what you got to learn. All right, Jesse has some questions here for me. Dana, some people say salvia has a musty smell. Does this one not have that? Yes. I mean, I think every salvia has a fragrance, and it's not necessarily a fragrance that all people find beneficial. There's several. I used to grow several salvias that I don't even grow anymore. Salvia Blue Better, salvia, can't even remember the names of them, because some of them don't lose their smell. They don't age. The blooms don't age well enough to be cut later in their maturity to allow the smell go away. And I did talk about that last week, that we've learned that when they're first fresh, they're so beautiful. It's kind of like Lenten roses. You know how Lenten hellebores, when they first open and they're that beautiful, vivid colors, and you want to cut them, but then you find out, the heads are knotted down and aren't really very useful, and they wilt very easily. Salvias are kind of that way. When they're very vibrant, when they first start to develop, that you cannot, you cut them and they're really, really stinky. What we have learned, allowing them to age in the garden, and they get a little bit more of a muted color, but still very, very useful, that smell almost goes away. So you'll have to find out in your garden what stage, but most of the other salvias that I dabbled with did not actually hold up long enough in the garden to get to that stage. Roebuck, question, will you be going on a book tour? That's a great question, Roebuck. So I will not, probably. They don't really do, there's not much book tour traveling anymore. I'm sure Stephen King would go on a book tour. But what I will be doing is appearing on a lot of podcasts, probably some shows, those types of things. And I'm not ruling that out, but we'll see what's actually happening. on the farm front here. But thank you for asking. I did do that when Vegetables Love Flowers came out. I went all across the country, Texas and Washington State and Colorado and Oregon, and went all over. But they don't always provide you with that opportunity. It's just because everything's so much more complicated now. But thank you for asking. And y'all will be the first people to know. And if you want to, first off, if you want to be in the know about my book launch when we announce what it is and show the cover and I'll talk about it, you need to be on our e-newsletter list. And those will be the first people to know about it. So you won't miss what I'll be doing a live event to launch it. And you don't want to miss that. It'll be so much fun. Brooke, I am having such a hard time getting millet to germinate, doing it in the 128 trays like sunflowers. Any tips? Okay, so I don't remember, because I think Bobo we did just plant some. The only thing I would say is be sure you're either covering it or not covering it. I don't remember which it is. Does it need light or darkness to germinate? We always put 2 or 3 seeds in each plug for the same reason we do sunflowers. Millet oftentimes will rebloom, but the way we plant it, that doesn't happen, because we plant it where our sunflowers are, that we make that first cut, we get 1 or 2 stems, and then we just process that bed like we do for the sunflowers. And so be sure you are either covering it or not covering it, and be sure you're putting it on heat, because it's a warm season thing, right? And be sure you have good viable seeds. But yeah, we have strong germination on that, and there's some of that coming along, and we're actually testing it this year in the garden with our regular branching annuals to see how long it'll produce. Is it viable, or should we just do like we do our sunflowers, right? Question: what will happen if I use seeds from a F1 sunflower? So you're talking about a hybrid. Well, these are hybrids. So I'm not sure what you mean by that. If you have like another use you're thinking, whether it's for pollinators or whatever. So these are definitely pollenless, but they produce nectar. The best cut flowers are pollenless. Pollen production ages the flowers super quick, and that's what makes them have a shorter vase life. So we grow F1 sunflowers. Is there specific colors that you grow for Memorial Day? Purple, yellow, red, white, and blue. Thank you. Happy Memorial Day. Oh, thank you. So it's so funny you should say that, because I used to tell a story about, for 4th of July here in our members only market was restricted to 150 members. They could buy as many shares as they wanted, but because we learned through the years that there's only a certain percentage of people that show up every week, and we were able to manage that, right? So 4th of July weekend, because all these people have like summer houses that they go to for the weekends, and particularly holiday weekends. On the Friday before 4th of July holiday weekend, it was like a cat fight in here over the blue and the red and the white flowers. I mean, I am telling you, I saw perfectly normal people turn into tigers. And so that really made me focus for red, white, and blue for 4th of July. I've never really done it for Memorial Day because it is so unpredictable. The weather is so unpredictable for us. This year, we're having the longest spring we've had in like 5 or 6 years. So cool flowers are still kicking, but our warm season stuff are still only knee high. Usually we're cutting zinnias by now. So I have never really focused. But if you're in an area that has a touristy, so we sold to Colonial Williamsburg, right, for years. They would have bought every red, white, and blue thing we had for this weekend, as they did for 4th of July, which is why I don't tell them. That's why our members only market didn't often have a lot, because Colonial Williamsburg, they are all about, right, the Independence Day. So yeah, you can do that. I have never been I never thought that way. I grew all the flowers I could grow, planting them at their proper time, and then sold the heck out of them. I never promised anybody ever more than a week in advance. So I did think about that for 4th of July, just because of the little problem it created. but I haven't done it for other holidays. And that is such a great question. Can you repeat your sons with double seeds? I just missed hearing it. It's the same exact spacing that you do for the singles. 5 rows in a 30-inch wide bed, 6 inches apart in the row. And for the double seeds, you just plant the double seed cell in that same space and you don't break them apart. So you're just making one actual hole. Planting, it just saves you time. Instead of, say, planting one every 3 inches, you just double them up. And there's so many plants that you can actually do that with. I'm thinking of ornamental kale. I know Dave Dowling does it with snapdragons. We get such multiple blooms off of one snapdragon plants. I've never done that. So you just have to experiment, y'all. That's how you learn this kind of stuff, right? So I'll take this question. Let's see here. Oh, I can't get mahogany splendor to sprout on heat mat in little inside greenhouse. So first off, mahogany splendor, if you bought it from us or from a reputable seed house, it should have 100% germination. That is one of those pricey, fairly new hybrid seeds, which just means they are very specifically grown and they have high standards at that point, because we usually get 100% germination. That's why we only start like 20 mahogany splendors, because they're so productive, right? And so what I would be afraid of, I'm glad you mentioned what you're starting in. What I would be concerned about in a little greenhouse is they can get very, very overheated or very underheated. The problem with small spaces of any kind, that's why I don't use plastic on low tunnels. Anytime you have a small space, it gets extreme really quick. And with those little greenhouses, I mean, you can toast your stuff in 2 hours on a sunny day if it's closed. So I would say I would take that heat mat and take it in my house where it's like a normal 70 degrees probably, and try them in there. And hopefully they haven't been ruined. If you have more seeds, I would probably restart. Mahogany Splendor is one of those strong branchers. We pinched 50% of our crop. We only plant 2 rows in a 30-inch bed because they are ferocious. And it's a dark color. And so I don't necessarily want it this time of the year or early in the summer. That's something we really plan on trying to have late summer and into fall. So I hope that helps you. Kathy, is Bupleurum just a spring flower, or can you keep planting through the summer? So, Kathy, it is a cool season hardy annual, and I would suggest one of the things that really helped me figure out when to plant stuff is I learned from, first off, I'll say this because I'm pretty sure none of them are on here. One of the Facebook groups that I belong to is a professional garden writers. It's actually called something different now, but it's with all the big dogs. I mean, there's home garden TV producers on there and all these authors that you see running around. And I learned by eavesdropping. I was a stalker in that group. I rarely, if ever, posted. But one of the things that they talked about was how much and they talk about gardeners, not farmers, how much new gardeners, they don't even understand that there's different types of plants. Like there's perennials, there's biennials, there's hardy annuals, and there's warm season tender annuals. And instead of calling flowers like a great example would be spring flowers or summer flowers, because it's kind of hard to know, like, what are they and when do you plant them? By trying to connect the dots between what a flower is and what group it belongs to, then learn when you can plant this group. And I'm telling you, my new book is going to be helping you out on this a lot. When to plant that group, because then you'll become like this rock star in your world of knowing when to plant stuff. Because all it means is when you learn about a new flower, you're going to say, well, what kind of plant is that actually? I don't know. Let's put it in a search engine. Is it what kind of plant, So Bupleurum is a cool season hardy annual. And if you live in a place where it doesn't get hot and humid all summer, you might be able to succession plant it. People probably that live in New England in the United States can probably plant Bupleurum all through the season. It's probably not as tall and voluptuous as earlier plantings, but it's voluptuous enough for good cuts, right? Those of us that live in the South, where we get hot and humid, we plant it in the fall. We plant it again very early spring. And then this would have been a year that I could have done multiple successions and we'd still be getting tons of cuts. So sometimes you gamble, but you might be able to plant it again in the fall. I don't know if Bupleurum is day lengths neutral or not. You'd have to look that up. But anyway, hope that helps. But that it's like when I read about these people talking about how confused gardeners are, and it's because we just didn't even realize that there was this dots that we can learn to connect, because there are different types of plants. So I'll just say them again. There's perennials, which are herbaceous perennials that die down every year. That's like a peony that comes back every year normally. Then there's biennials, which that's what, like I talked about, the campanula that's back there. Campanula has biennial versions. It has hardy annual versions. And they're probably, I don't grow many perennials, so I don't know if there's a perennial version or not. And let's complicate it deeper. Some people, the biennials or some of these will actually perennialize if the conditions are truly perfect. So, but put all that mess aside, simplify it. Perennial, biennial. Biennial means it has to be gotten in the ground this year to get to a certain size, to get a certain cold period next fall, winter, to bloom the following year. It takes a long time. I generally don't grow biennials except for a couple of Sweet Williams, which I talked about yesterday's show. You can check that out. Then there's hardy annuals, which are what cool flowers are. And there's tender annuals, which are the warm season stuff that bloom all summer. So y'all, I'm not trying to blow your head up. I'm just saying there is really a simple way that you can go from basically not having much knowledge of when to plant what, which I know for me personally was my biggest barrier. And I will tell you this, that is a big part of what my book is about. It's really it's like my secret sauce that we're spreading. And so grateful. Jessie, that is our co-host here, actually is a contributor in the book also. We loved working together with her, as well as the team here at TGW. We have photographer Bob Scammerhorn again, and my sister did photography, and Bobo with the growing and helping. And y'all, it takes a lot. It takes a whole village to write a book, I'm telling you. So friends, I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday weekend. And just remember, the reason for this season or this holiday is for all of those that have served us. And, it's so funny when you're out somewhere and you see someone that's obviously military or has served, or even police officers and firefighters. And I mean, they all do it at different levels, right? And you thank them. Most often they're quite touched by that. And, be the one, be that one person. All right, friends, until we meet again. Oh, and because I got rid of my notes here, remember that Wednesday I'm doing Ask a Flower Farmer this week. So bring your questions. It's on Instagram, 12:30 Eastern time, on the Gardener's Workshop handle. And the next Friday, join me for the shopping show. We always have a great theme going on. And remember, friends, to share and like and subscribe here. And love it if you would post a review. If you post a review on anything we do on any of the platforms for us, it is so helpful to us. You just can't even imagine. That's what really drives the platforms. So, all right, friends, until we meet again, happy Memorial Day.